Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. I just want to share with you today some of the really exciting new things that we're going to be offering at the samueli.institute and what my specialty is in neuropsychology. So we're going to start off talking about what is a brain map? What is a QEEG? Well, QEEG is called quantitative electroencephalograph. And what it is, it's a way for us to look at how your brain is functioning via the electrical activity by taking an electrical recording for about 10 minutes with your eyes open and then about 10 minutes with your eyes closed. And then after that, I do a brief analysis, actually a thorough analysis, and then we come up with a map that's going to show us how your brain is acting. Is there too much of a high frequency? Is there too much of a low frequency? And from that data, we're able to pinpoint what exactly your strengths and weaknesses are and what we need to do to bring your brain back into normal level functioning. So what does it mean? What is the brain wave? What are we looking at? So we're looking at the different brain waves in the brain and how each one is functioning. So just to kind of go over what the brain waves are, we look at a delta wave. So the delta wave is a 1 to 4 hertz, meaning that the neurons in the brain are firing 1 to 4 times per second. So delta is normally associated with deep sleep, meditation, attention tasks, brain injury. A lot of times we'll see brain injury, a lot of high delta in the areas of brain injury. When there's lack of delta, that can also tell me you're not getting very good quality sleep. So then we go up to theta. Theta is a 4 to 8 hertz. And theta is also a slow wave, 4 to 8 times per second. It's associated with drowsiness, light sleep, attention problems, kind of a brain fog, but also with creativity and deep thought. So the alpha wave, I like the alpha wave. That's a relaxing wave. It's the wave that you're at the beach and you're relaxing. It's the wave that is very calm, you're peaceful. It's the wave that you're in right before you go to sleep when you just feel at your optimum relaxation level. Beta, on the other hand, is a 12 to 15 hertz, is a sensory motor responsive beta. And that beta is where you are during the day, where you're focused, alert, on task. And then you have the higher frequencies of beta from 16 to 30, where that is where you have some active thinking going on, hyper focus. So you want to be functioning more around the 12 to 15 hertz during the day. But if you have too much of that, then that can create some problems as well. And we'll go into that. So what does an irregular brain wave mean? So these are just a few examples of what I'm looking at in the brain map, and it shows you and kind of validates, oh, this is why I'm feeling the way I am. So this is why I have anxiety. So for example, too much of a frontal theta wave can be associated with attention problems, depending on what side of the brain it's on. It can be, if it's on the right side, planning, problem solving, reasoning, judgment, impulse control, compulsive behaviors. On the left side, you have language area, you have agitated depression, irritability, frustration, intolerance. So too much of the slow frequency in the frontal lobes and the temporal lobes can cause a lot of those problems that I just mentioned. Depression, increased alpha. Okay, alpha is that nice calm wave, but when we have too much alpha, that can be associated with depression, with brain fog, with just not being clear and just not feeling right, feeling good. Anxiety, that's a big one these days. Too much frontal central beta and high beta can be indicative of anxiety, panic, overthinking. Again, depending on what area of the brain it's in. If it's on the left, you get frustrated very easily, irritable very easily, agitated depression. You can hold in those feelings. If it's in the central area, normally what I see when someone has too much of that beta or high beta within the central area of the brain, have a tendency to hold in emotions and feelings, which can cause fear, worry, which in turn can cause anxiety and depression. I see that a lot these days, especially post-COVID. Migraines, increased right frontal high beta can indicate migraine. If it's on the right side, it can also indicate issues in social emotional connection, overthinking, social emotional disconnect. So it just depends on what area of the brain it is and what we see within the brainwave QEEG report. So what is neurofeedback? So once we have the brain map and we've established what areas of the brain are dysregulated, too high, too low, then one of the treatments that I do is called neurofeedback. Now, neurofeedback is a type of biofeedback that acts as a reward system for the brain to restore your brainwave patterns back to normal. Okay, so let's say you have that too slow functioning going on in the frontal lobes. Neurofeedback is going to target those specific areas, and it's going to reward you, and I'll show you in a minute how we do that. Every time your brain is focused, you will get a reward. So neurofeedback is basically based on the operant and classical conditioning premise that the more you're rewarded, the more likely you're going to stay there. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, first of all, with the brain map and with neurofeedback, you get to wear this cute little cap that we have here. This is actually the latest technology in developing for neurofeedback and for the quantitative electroencephalograph. There's no gel involved, which everybody loves. So you can leave the clinic without gel in your hair. And it's not as heavy as it looks. It's actually pretty light. It goes on top of your head. Now, there's nothing going into your brain. That's the first thing that I hear all the time with from my patients. Am I being electrocuted? Is there something going into my brain? No, absolutely not. All it's doing is that each one of those little leads there is sending a signal to my computer so that my computer is then recording all of the different brainwave activity. So it's a very non-invasive headset that will be put onto your head. And that serves as your, what we call your remote control for the video game that you're going to play. So you'll sit in a nice, comfortable chair, and there's different ways that we can do it now. You can either play it's a very non-stimulating video game. It's not like what the kids play, thank goodness. It's a very non-stimulating video game where your brain is actually controlling what is going on in the screen. So your brain will control whether your eagle flies through a hoop or whether your car is going or your fish are jumping, or you can also watch a movie. The movie will go light and dark. The dialogue will go in and out. Well, nobody likes that, right? So we want to make sure that we're focusing so that we see the whole movie and we hear all the dialogue. Now we can use Netflix, we can use YouTube. There's a lot of different ways that we can provide something that you enjoy for the neurofeedback treatment. So it's based on real wavelength activity from your brain to my computer. Okay, so you're playing or watching using your brain. Kind of cool, huh? Okay, and usually the sessions are about 45 minutes long. And generally speaking, based on research, you want to complete at least 20 sessions. Okay, so research on neurofeedback. Just before I talk a little bit about that, let me preface by saying that research on neurofeedback has been very speculative, has been controversial in that there's a lot of people that will say that it's not based by science, that the methodologies are not sound, that we don't have double-blind placebo controls, so forth and so on. The effect sizes, the sample sizes are too small. Well, that's true. So I'm not gonna say that isn't true. There are a lot of people that are doing the neurofeedback research, and they are coming up with really great results that are using double-blind placebo-controlled studies. So we're getting more and more technical. Our technology is increasing so much. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I've seen, especially in the last 5 years, we have just grown so much in how technical we can get in our recording. And if you look at the research, a lot of the research that's been done is on the old type of research where we were just training the surface of the brain. Now, with the new technology, we're training the whole brain. So I'm really excited for the next generation of research on neurofeedback. I think it's going to be very scientifically based. I think we're going to be able to have a lot more sound methodologies and technical ways to report pre and post treatments. So I'm going to present a few research articles that have come out, and hopefully soon we'll have, and I will be hopefully a part of that at UCI. I want to start developing some research protocols so that we can provide some very sound research in the near future. So just to go over a couple of articles, effects of a single session of SMR training on anxiety and cortisol levels. So this was after just one session. It was a study on using men, about 20 men, and they tested their anxiety levels and their cortisol levels after just one session. And the results are showing that there definitely is pronounced effects in the direction that we want the cortisol to go in, as well as the neurofeedback has increased their ability to enhance their performance, okay? And this was also using sham neurofeedback. So there was a control group in this particular study. So that was just released in 2020. So that's pretty impressive there. Again, though, that was using the old type of neurofeedback. Another study here, we looked at behavioral and neurocognitive effects in children with ADHD. Now, what's interesting about this study, this was released in 2018, and again, using the old type of neurofeedback. And what's interesting about this one is that even at a 6 month, after 6 months of training, they didn't differ significantly from the group that was using medication with respect to neurophysiology, but they were definitely better when it came to how the teachers reported the children's behaviors. And that's important, that you want your child to behave in school. So evidently, this is showing that the neurofeedback did work because one, you have the same as the children that were on the medication, first of all, with a non-invasive and a totally holistic treatment, and the behavior's better 6 months later. Another research, we're looking at neurofeedback to enhance hypnotic analgesia to patients with multiple sclerosis. Now, I've had a lot of patients that have come in with chronic pain. So what this study did is kind of using an integrative model, which is something that I really want to start doing, and well, actually something I have been doing for 20 years. But this particular study took patients that had multiple sclerosis that were trained in self-hypnosis to help them with their pain. So what this did was it took the patients that were having trouble getting into the self-hypnotic state, and it trained them with neurofeedback prior to them doing their own self-hypnosis. And this neurofeedback was able to get them so that they were able to get into the self-hypnotic stage and control their pain, which is phenomenal. Now, I've done this personally with a lot of my patients where I also provide hypnosis. If they couldn't get into that hypnotic state, usually because they had a very active brain. So what I would do is I would train them with neurofeedback for a few sessions, and 99.9% of the time, they were able to get into that meditative state, no problem. So using that integrative model for this research project, or this research study, worked. The next one, SWLORETA neurofeedback is a potential therapy for patients with seizures. And a lot of patients that have seizures don't respond to medication. So this study actually showed that neurofeedback was able to help the seizure activity either become less intense, or it decreased significantly the amount of seizures that they had. Now, last year I had a patient that came in with seizures that was not really responsive to medication. He did 20 sessions of neurofeedback. His seizures were almost completely gone after he completed the therapy session. So it is very promising for seizures as well. So just briefly, there's been a lot of research on attention with children and adults. This is just naming a few of the research projects that they've done. Neurofeedback on performance anxiety is a big one. This particular, it looks at musical performance, ballroom dance, singing, acting, and surgical skills. I've treated a lot of people with performance anxiety. It helps significantly with that. I've treated several professional athletes, collegiate athletes, all the way down to little Pop Warner guys, and our soccer players with that have significant performance anxiety, and it really does, provide them with the tools they need and decreases their brain activity so that they don't have that as much, as well as test anxiety. Test anxiety is another big one. So anxiety, sleep, learning, memory improvement, depression, head injuries, all of these are different areas that have been researched in the past with neurofeedback, balance, alcoholism, substance abuse. So it's been widespread research on neurofeedback. Again, the research isn't as sound as it could be. So this is something that we are really gravitating towards, getting that research out that's scientifically based with all of the new technology. So that's going to be really exciting for the future. So being that I've done this for many, many years now, I thought it would be very interesting, not just showing the research, but what do the brain maps actually look like before and after neurofeedback treatment? So I'm just going to give you a few examples of patients that I have seen to just kind of show you what it looks like before and after. So to start off with, one of my favorite populations, of course, is the athletes. I love training athletes. The first set of brain maps is a 78-year-old retired NFL player. He's also an actor. He wouldn't even care if I shared his name with him because he loves doing neurofeedback. When he first started a few years ago, he had significant memory problems, word finding problems, brain fog, depression. He just wasn't doing very well. And he did, neurofeedback, many sessions of neurofeedback. This is actually not even his first brain map that he did with me. It was a lot worse than that, than the first one that you see on the left there. So we did session after session. So what that brain map is showing me is that the red is showing that he had a lot of slow activity in the brain. You see on the right temporal lobe, there's a red there. The theta, again, remember these are slow frequencies. He had a lot of slowness going on in his brain. And if you look at the beta, that's the blue there on the second line, his functioning during the day was not very good. He could not focus, he couldn't think, and so forth and so on. So after 20 sessions, this is what happened. You can see he still has red on that theta down below, but look at that top line. There's no more red. He did great. The second line, he had some theta still there, that red, but we're still continuing to work with him. He also probably has CTE. He played many, many years as professional football, as well as college, as well as before that. So he's had a lot of head issues as far as head banging in the field of football. So he has done significantly better since he started neurofeedback. He has a radio show now. He still does parts on in certain programs on TV. He still does acting. So he's doing great, and he would attest to neurofeedback anytime. The second one here is a 25-year-old professional snowboarder. He's an Olympian. He's also a race car driver. First came to me, and you can see, I haven't really talked about the bottom line, the bottom where all those lines are, but his brain wasn't functioning very well at all. Actually, he had a very significant brain injury as a result of one of his falls and a surgery that he had to have after that. So he had a lot of coherence issues in his brain. He had a lot of slowness in the brain. He had a lot of anxiety, depression. His attention was off, very low frustration tolerance. And that's very typical with someone who has had a traumatic brain injury. And you can see there on the second brain map there, it's gone. So he is going to be in the Olympics. This next one's coming up, and he's doing well. He has clarity. He's able to focus a lot better. He still has some frustration intolerance, but he's doing so much better, and his overall mood has increased significantly. A couple more here. I have a 59-year-old female who had significant trauma as a child and adult, abuse, verbal, physical, sexual, who was suffering from major mood disorder and severe anxiety. You can see the brain map on the left there with all of the red there in the beta area. So she had a lot of problems even functioning in her daily life. She wasn't able to work. She had a hard time even with her children, with her husband. It was a very difficult life for her. After she did neurofeedback, she returned to work. She had less anxiety. Her relationship with her children and her husband also significantly improved. So she was very grateful and, loved the neurofeedback treatment. Very relaxing for her. To the right, I have a 12-year-old male who was in the spectrum disorder, and he had significant attention problems and learning disabilities. As you can see, the high red, again, meaning too much of a frequency, very high theta. So his attention was not very good at all. He did neurofeedback, and we were able to definitely decrease the amount of theta that was in his brain, as you can see there. He still had a little bit in the left frontal there, but he had significantly better attention, focus, concentration, and his grades really improved, which his mother was very thankful for. So another treatment that I provide is called NeuroTracker. Now, NeuroTracker is a very actually fun and challenging device where it's a three-dimensional visual exercise that does train the brain, and it uses the balls. So you see the balls in those pictures. You have 3D glasses on, and you have the screen in front of you, and you have to remember the numbers on the balls. So when the balls start moving, the numbers go away. So you have to track the balls with your eyes, and when they stop, the goal is to be able to name or point to the balls that were there certain numbers that you were supposed to remember. So it's very challenging. It actually is very fun in the long run. This improves attention, executive functioning, visual tracking, processing speed, working memory. It's been used many times with the military, with air traffic controllers for attention purposes. A lot of hockey players use it because you can do this while you're manipulating a puck on the floor, a ball. I had a NFL player that I treated last year where I actually had him on a balance board while doing this because he was a lineman, and I had him on the balance board in his stance trying to do this at the same time. Because what do they need to do? They need to track visually in the peripheral. And he said it really, really helped him a lot. So the research on this has actually been pretty good. And again, this would be another area that would be great to do research in the future at UCI. So what else can we do to treat the brain? Lifestyle changes, right? That healthy diet really helps. Leafy green vegetables, nuts, berries, olive oil, whole grain beans, fish, poultry. You want to get those omegas in there. You want to keep that healthy diet there to help the brain function as well. Because for another reason, if you have predispositions to any kind of, PSP or Parkinson's or any of those types of diseases, you want to make sure you're feeding that brain healthy foods to prevent you from getting those diseases as well. Exercise your mind and body, right? Good exercise. Neurofeedback is exercising your mind. It's like going to the gym for your brain. NeuroTracker, exercise for your brain. Quality sleep. That's something that a lot of us don't get much of, but it's so important to get quality sleep. Neurofeedback can also help with insomnia. Yoga, mindfulness, meditation, all of those are great things that you can do in your life to kind of calm that brain down and help you think and focus better. Again, some of the treatments that we provide, neurofeedback, which we talked about, NeuroTracker. Biofeedback is another great one that the Samueli Clinic offers. Hypnosis, I love hypnosis. Hypnosis is very calming. It's very relaxing. Supplements, supplements are always good. I always recommend supplements to my patients, different ones for different problems that are presented. Relaxation therapy, strategies for home, for example, the color books that you're going to get in your little package, right? That's very relaxing because when you're anxious, what you're usually thinking, overthinking, right? So when you're sitting there and you're coloring, you're not thinking about all the 10 million things that you have to do tonight, tomorrow. Oh, you have to get to dinner, and you have to get the kids here, you have to do their homework, and so forth and so on. No, you're thinking about, oh, I think red will look good here, or purple will look good here, right? So that's a very good strategy. It's a distraction from all the overthinking that you're doing in your mind. Music. Listen to your favorite music. Go for a walk with your headset on or your earpods and just relax and listen to music. And when you do that, look around your scenery. Take in the feeling of the warmth of the sun, the breeze that you feel from the wind, the smells, all of that. Take in your environment, because that's another strategy for anxiety, right? Distraction. Put your mind at ease by, oh, it feels so nice and warm out here today, or this breeze feels really good. And that rose over there, oh, it's a beautiful shade of red and it smells really good. Okay, so take in all the senses when you're going for a walk and listening to your music. Warm baths, lavender, aromatherapy, I like that one. Okay, that's always good to just kind of soothe the soul at the end of the day. Drink some hot tea, some chamomile tea. That's another one that's really nice for you to relax at night. Stay away from the screen. Don't be on your phone. Okay, I know we're all guilty of it, but leave your phone away from your bed. Turn it off if possible. Don't be on the TV. Don't be on the iPad or the computer. Your brain needs to relax. Screen time is something that we all do. And unfortunately, it's really overacting our brain. And I've done several studies on video games and what they do to children's brains, and that's for another time. But it does definitely change how your brain reacts. So you want to stay away from that at night before you go to bed. And if you read, don't read in bed. Read in a chair next to your bed. Your bed is for sleep. Read next to your bed. But reading is a good thing because it's also a distraction and it's very calming to some people. Cognitive behavioral therapy can help as well. See a therapist for cognitive behavioral therapy. Work on strategies for your anxiety, for your depression. I do cognitive behavioral therapy as well, and it does really help a lot of people. Journal. Get those thoughts that are in your head out of your head and onto paper. You'll believe how different it will feel. Okay? So all in all, looking at your brain, knowing what's going on inside rather than just thinking, am I just going crazy or what's going on here, right? When you physically see the activity in your brain via a brain map, I don't know how many people have told me, oh, wow, there is really something going on. It's not just in my head. I'm not just crazy. No, you have overactivity here. You have underactivity here. That's why you feel the way you do, right? Someone has a mild TBI. They have changes in personality. Nobody sees it because physically they look okay, right? But they know something's wrong. Sometimes they don't know something's wrong, but the family does. So knowing what's going on in your brain helps you understand your behavior better, helps your family, your coworkers, whoever wants to know about you, helps them to understand you better, and it helps you to understand yourself better. And if there are problems, then we can work on those so that you can lead a normal, happy, healthy life. Thank you very much.